In 2 hours, Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland will be back at the negotiating table with the U.S. and Mexico to figure out whether a trilateral deal is possible.
I think the Canadian position and the issues that are of particular importance to Canada are well known. We always look for the areas where a win-win-win compromise can be found.
Joining us now to break it all down is Adam Taylor, former advisor to International Trade Minister Ed Fast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so break down for us exactly what Canada would want in a potential new trade deal, because it seems like a lot of it stems from preserving what we already have.
Yeah, very much so. Canada would have been satisfied not to have to undertake these negotiations at all. And first up is obviously Canada wants to preserve a dispute resolution mechanism within a modernized NAFTA. This was a deal breaker a generation ago when we couldn't get one. We finally got one. The deal went through. So preserving the ability for when there are trade disputes that there's a panel that can discuss it and each side appoints people to that panel. Preserving some sort of dispute resolution mechanism is indeed one of the key red lines for Canada.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, but especially on the softwood lumber deal, it seems like the Americans just ignored that dispute mechanism and the results that stem from it altogether. So perhaps renegotiating or reinventing it might be a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen time and again when if you don't like the decision and it doesn't go in your favor, you tend to appeal and endlessly go in circles to try and preserve your position. And if we can try and modernize and end up with a mechanism that actually works for both sides, that would be indeed a huge win for Canada and for all sides, frankly.
All right, let's look again at something else Canada wants: preserving duty-free access.
Yeah, absolutely. Canada, with 75% of all our exports going to the United States, we need to absolutely preserve access to that market. We've seen threats of auto tariffs, for example, which would be devastating for Ontario and Quebec in particular. We already have steel and aluminum tariffs on. We're seeing some negative effects from those. So we actually realize when we have such a dependence on the U.S. market for our exports, the need to preserve access to that market is almost the top priority over everything. And so hopefully we go in and find a way to preserve that access and get some of the tariffs that have been imposed lifted from Canada.
And lastly, this one seems to be the biggest bridge to gap to bridge rather, is the preservation of supply management.
Yes, this is going back to the 70s. We've had this system for dairy products and poultry and other related products. And we've always preserved this, no matter what negotiation we've undertaken with the European Union, with the Pacific Rim countries. We've preserved supply management. We've obviously seen the Trump administration and the president himself take aim at our supply management system. The Trudeau government has pledged to preserve it. Farmers are expecting it. We now see under the glare of a Quebec election, all Quebec parties saying that we must preserve this system. So it's a politically sensitive issue for the government for sure. And going down to Washington to try and reach a compromise and preserve this system is also a key priority for Canada.
It is going to require a heck of a lot of creativity. I'm very curious to see how they end up figuring that one out. Adam, thank you so much for being here today and clearing it up for us.
Thank you.